After raising my 3 grandkids for 13 incredible years, I was shocked when accusations were revealed. Mary got out of bed to the soft chorus of birds outside her window, a sound she cherished in her cozy Ohio suburb. These sounds were part of her life's soundtrack, alongside the laughter of her 3 grandchildren. The breakfast was simple but filled with love, bacon sizzling in the pan, the aroma a warm hug. As she watched her grandkids dig into their food with shining eyes, she felt the heartbeat of her family echo in the small kitchen. They were her world, her reason to rise each day after the tragic loss of her son. 13 years had passed since that day when her heart shattered, but the love she poured into her grandchildren sealed her wounds. For over a decade, Mary worked at the local grocery store, ringing up customers and sharing smiles. She wore her apron like a badge of honor, reminding her that hard work brought pride. Everyone in town knew her as the kind lady with gentle hands and a heart full of compassion. At church, she became a linchpin, always organizing bake sales or community dinners. Yet, her simple life, rich in spirit and community, faced a rumble of discord when the newcomer moved in. The new family, loud and brash, brought with them a sense of entitlement, wrapped in whispers of judgment. When the mother, Pamela, shared her unsolicited thoughts in town gatherings, Mary felt the weight of her glares. It all started with a comment about dirt-poor families raising troubled kids. Mary's heart ached at the accusation tattooed over her soul. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Mary's heart hammered in her chest as she noticed her friends whispering behind her back, their eyes filled with doubt. They were caught in the tide of Pamela's rumors. With every snicker and sideways glance, Mary felt her world start to unravel. She refused to let whispers drown her spirit. If her character was put on trial, she would fight for her family with everything she had. So, she set her sights on a charity event that would open hearts and rebuild connections. As she planned, she felt hope flutter within her. The event would showcase the good laid thick in her life, a testament to her hard work and determination. But as the day drew closer, Pamela's malice seeped into the event's fabric, stirring doubt amongst the townsfolk. Then came the night of the event, drenched in emotion, laughter, and a realization that turned Mary's heart heavy. The community hall pulsed with life, music and light, but the tension in the air sparked like a storm. During her heartfelt speech, the ground shifted beneath her as Pamela unleashed her accusations again, throwing words like knives. Why should we trust someone who can't even provide for their grandchildren? The newcomer spat, the weight of her words echoing in the hall. Gasps filled the room, and Mary felt a tempest rise within her. This was at the moment everything hinged upon, the culmination of fear and anger, the future of her family poised over the precipice of misunderstanding. As she locked eyes with her grandchildren, a wave of strength surged forth. Would this community choose unity or the comfort of their biases? In that moment of silence and defiance, Mary knew she was no longer just fighting for herself, she was fighting for every struggling family grappling with judgment. Could she turn this tide, or were they all too far gone? The stakes were never higher, setting the stage for a reckoning that would challenge everything she believed about love, community, and the strength of the human spirit. The gasp hung in the air like a thick fog, stinging Mary's senses. She felt the warmth of her children beside her, their small hands slipping into hers, grounding her as she faced the crowd. A knot tightened in her chest, but she took a deep breath, drawing strength from the bond that tied her to her grandkids. "Thank you, Pamela," she began, voice steady yet soft, "for sharing your concerns." She saw the flicker of surprise in the newcomer's eyes, as though she hadn't expected such a response. "It takes courage to speak up. I admire that." Mary felt the room shifting, a fine crack forming in the wall of judgment. She could almost hear the heartbeat of hope begin to drum softly beneath the tension. But let us also take a moment to speak about love and trust. What it means to stand together instead of pointing fingers. A murmur rippled through the audience, some nodding, others still skeptical. She could sense the hesitance, the weight of Pamela's words still hanging like a shadow overhead. Mary poured her heart into her next words, recounting her journey. Life hasn't always been easy for me, or for my family. We've faced storms that threatened to sweep us away. But love has always sailed us through. As she spoke, memories flickered in her mind, her late son, his laughter. The way he embraced his children, leading with kindness. Mary's heart swelled. I lost my son, not just a piece of my heart. But in raising these beautiful souls, she pointed to her grandchildren, I've learned that strength lies in community and compassion. For a moment, silence wrapped around her like a warm embrace. She could see eyes soften, expressions shift. The town had always been her home, and deep down, she knew that love had the power to heal wounds, even those inflicted by casual judgments. Even when we struggle, she continued, her voice gaining momentum, we must rise above the noise. Every family has its burdens to bear, but it's how we support each other through them that truly counts. She glanced at Pamela, who stood frozen, the fire in her eyes flickering slightly. I urge everyone, let us break down these barriers together instead of letting them divide us. Her chest rose and fell, heart racing with the weight of her words. She could feel the pulse of uncertainty turning into a rhythm of hope. On her periphery, she noticed a few neighbors whispering to each other, some expressions turning from doubt to contemplation. Mary took a deep breath and finished strong. We can either stand divided, clinging to our assumptions, or we can unite. Let this event tonight bring us together as we share from our hearts. Let love prevail. Applause broke the silence, hesitant at first, before it became a swell of gratitude, friendship, and understanding. Mary's heart sang, but she could see Pamela's lips pressed into a thin line, her body rigid. The challenge for acceptance was not over, it had merely begun. In that moment, Mary realized that the fight for her family's honor extended beyond her tonight. Could she inspire others to champion for what was right? She stepped down from the podium, her heart buoyed with hope, yet a lingering question clouded her mind. What would it take to truly change perceptions? And as she embraced her grandkids, their laughter peeking through the lingering tension, Pamela's gaze lingered, searching for weakness. The stage was set for more than just an exchange of ideas, it was about to become a battlefield for hearts. How far would Mary go to protect her family, especially when the battle had only begun? The applause faded into a muffled hum as Mary stepped away from the podium, her heart still racing with the adrenaline of her speech. She turned to her grandchildren, their bright eyes filled with admiration and love. Their small hands clung to her, a silent pact of support, but as she glanced around the room, the energy shifted. The smiles that greeted her slowly turned into whispers, an undercurrent of chatter weaving through the crowd. Pamela's rigid stance didn't go unnoticed, it was as if her very presence threw a shadow over Mary's moment of triumph. Let us play outside, one of her grandkids suggested, trying to lift the mood. Mary felt grateful for their innocence but knew they'd soon be confronted with the weight of adult worries. Just a few more minutes, honey, she replied softly, I want to see how this plays out. The crowd began to disperse, conversations gaining momentum. Mary caught snippets of words: controversy, misguided, concerns for the children. Each phrase felt like a rock, thrown into the still waters of her heart. She sought refuge in the warm embrace of her grandkids, but the walls of judgment pressed closer. Pamela stood at the edge of the gathering, her expression stormy. You really think this will change anything? That just a speech could erase the past? Her words crackled with energy, challenging the air. Mary took a step forward, her breath catching. What do you suggest then? We just ignore it? Let things remain as they are? No, Pamela countered, her voice rising slightly. But pretending everything's fine won't help you either. You can fight for acceptance, but some people will never understand. There was a glimmer of something in her eyes, fear, maybe. Fear of the unknown, of the tightly woven fabric of their community unraveling. You don't know us. You don't know what we've been through, Mary replied, her voice firm yet vulnerable. My family has faced heartache, and we've still chosen to love, to support one another. Isn't that worth something? The tension in the air thickened, a biting chill replacing the earlier warmth. Mary South grandkids remained close, their quiet assurance urging her forward. She felt the power of her own convictions but worried that it might not be enough. Just then, an older neighbor, Mrs. Thompson, approached, her face lined with years of kindness. "Mary, dear," she said gently, "I believe what you had to say tonight is important. Changing hearts and minds doesn't happen overnight, but it starts with conversations like these." "I hope you're right," Mary said, a mixture of hope and doubt in her voice. "Perhaps we can organize a gathering," Mrs. Thompson suggested. "A way for families to come together, share stories, and build understanding?" Mary's heart raced. Could this be the turning point? The gathering of open hearts? But then the thought struck her, would Pamela allow it? Would she rally people to open their minds rather than reinforce the divides? As if on cue, Pamela's gaze flicked toward Mary, and for a moment, their eyes locked in a silent challenge. Mary felt the weight of that look, the battle lines drawn clear as day. "Okay, let us plan a meeting," Mary said, determination flooding her. "But it can't be just talk, we need actions that matter." The crowd shifted again, people glancing back with expectation. Would this become something bigger than just a single event, a movement to reshape their community? Mary felt the stirrings of hope but also an underlying fear of pushback. What if the fight for her family's honor ignited more than just conversations? Pamela stood unmoving, her lips twisting into a sardonic smile. Good luck with that. Mary's resolve hardened. This was her family, her fight, and she wouldn't back down. But at what cost? As the evening wore on, the feeling of uncertainty settled in, forcing Mary to reconsider the intricacies of love, acceptance, and the courage to face the battle to come. The question lingered, like an echo in her heart. If she pushed for this change, would they have the strength to stand as one, or would the fissures continue to widen? Mary's heart raced as she processed the whirlwind of emotions swirling around her. The bright faces of her grandchildren provided a fragile shield against the looming shadows of doubt in the crowd. They bubbled with excitement, unaware of the brewing storm. "Can we go outside now?" One of them urged again, tugging at her hand. Their eagerness was infectious, and Mary felt a flicker of joy amidst the tension. "All right, let us head out for a bit." The relief in her voice felt like a lifeline. She needed the fresh air, the feel of grass beneath her feet, and the laughter of her grandkids. As they stepped outside, the evening sky painted soft shades of pink and orange. The world felt momentarily peaceful, yet Mary's mind was still racing. She settled on a bench, watching as her grandchildren danced across the lawn, their laughter ringing like music, each giggle echoing against the weight in her heart. But as she sat there, peering into their joyful faces, doubt crept in. What would happen next? The meeting was just a seed, and she had no idea if it would flourish or wither under scrutiny. Was she brave enough to confront the resistance she and her family faced? "Grandma! Come play!" One of her grandsons yelled, leaning on the bright green grass, bouncing with youthful energy. Mary couldn't resist. She joined them, throwing caution to the wind. They played tag, a simple game, but every tap on their shoulders felt like a reminder of what was at stake. They were innocent. They deserved a future free from whispers and judgment. As darkness began to seep in, she pulled them close. "Listen to me for a moment," she urged, kneeling in front of them. "We might face some tough times ahead. People might say things that hurt, but always remember love is our strongest weapon. Never doubt how much you are worth." Her youngest, a girl with soft curls, looked at Mary with wide eyes. "But Grandma, what if they don't love us back?" Mary hesitated. "Then we show them love anyway. Sometimes, that's the hardest, most brave thing we can do." Just then, she noticed Pamela lurking at the edge of the playground. The other woman's gaze swept across the children, a flicker of something disappointment. Fear? Crossing her face. Mary's heart sank. What was Pamela thinking? Did she realize her role in all of this? Did she understand just how deeply her actions affected generations? Finally, Pamela strode over, her presence cutting through the evening air like a cold wind. "This is all misguided, Mary," she said sharply. "Trying to make people accept what they can't understand." "Pamela," Mary interrupted, anger sparking. "This isn't just about acceptance. It's about family. About loving each other in a world that sometimes forgets how." The stare down between them intensified, the air thick with tension. "Love can't change minds, Mary. It doesn't wipe away prejudice," Pamela replied, a hint of vulnerability breaking through her bravado. Mary felt the knot in her stomach twist tighter. "But it's worth trying, isn't it? For our children?" Pamela's silence weighed heavily, a moment hanging between them, fraught with unspoken words. The resolution in Mary's heart trembled. She needed Pamela on her side, but that felt like a daunting mountain to climb, and then she remembered Mrs. Thompson's suggestion. "Let us hold that gathering. Invite everyone. Let us show them what real love and understanding look like. We'll talk, listen, no more hiding." Pamela scoffed, but there was a tremor in her voice. "Fine, but don't say I didn't warn you. You're setting yourself up for a bigger fallout." Mary clenched her fists, determination igniting. This was bigger than her fear. This was about standing tall for her family, full of love and warmth, even in the face of cold resistance. As the night deepened, she turned to her grandchildren, who looked at her with hopeful eyes. What would they face in the days ahead? Mary took a deep breath, steeling herself for the battles she knew were coming. If they were to change minds, they had to start somewhere. Could they really unite their community? Would love be enough? Mary awoke the next morning with the weight of the night heavy on her chest. The sun streamed through the kitchen window, bathing the space in a warm glow, but it did little to ease the turmoil in her heart. She watched her grandchildren at the table, their chatter light and carefree. They were oblivious to the storm brewing just beyond their laughter. "Grandma, can we bake cookies today?" her youngest asked, her eyes shining with anticipation. Mary smiled faintly, her heart grateful for those innocent moments. "Absolutely. Let us make your favorite chocolate chip ones." As flour dusted the counter and chocolate chips glittered in the sunlight, Mary stirred a bowl of batter, her mind wandering to the gathering they had planned. Mrs. Thompson had caught wind of it and was eager to help. She had even promised her friends would come. Could this really be the tipping point? Suddenly, the doorbell rang. Mary froze, the wooden spoon hovering in midair. Her thoughts scattered like flour, transforming into tiny clouds swirling around the kitchen. She glanced at her grandchildren, who were bursting with excitement. They weren't ready for the reality that lay behind her smile. "Stay here, sweethearts," she instructed, wiping her hands on the dish towel. The moment she opened the door, her heart dropped. The neighbor next door, Linda, stood on the porch, the expression on her face pinched, eyes narrowed. "Mary, we need to talk," Linda stated bluntly, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. This wasn't a social visit. Mary felt her stomach twist. "What's wrong?" "It's about the gathering," Linda said, her voice too sharp. "You know folks don't take kindly to these things. They think you're trying to stir up trouble." Mary's hands clenched into fists, her resolve hardening. "It's about love, Linda. It's about uniting people. Love doesn't change minds," she repeated Pamela's words, the bitterness brief but cutting. "You think people will just listen?" Externally, Mary remained calm, but inside, her heart raced. Maybe not everyone will listen, but some might. Isn't that worth something? Linda crossed her arms, her brows furrowing. "You risk everything. There are children involved, Mary. Your grandkids." That was the raw nerve, the one that forced tears to prick at the corners of her eyes. "And that's exactly why I need to do this. They deserve a future where they can be proud of who they are." At that moment, she heard giggles echoing from the kitchen, their blissful laughter a stark contrast to the heaviness in the air. Mary's heart swelled, her determination flaring anew. "I can't hide from this, Linda. Hiding isn't an option any longer." Linda shook her head slowly, her expression shifting slightly. Be careful. There's talk online. Not everyone sees the way you do. With that warning hanging in the air, Linda turned and left, leaving Mary shaken but even more resolute. She didn't want to frighten her grandchildren, but she also wouldn't let fear control her anymore. That evening, Mary sat at the table with her family, the cookie dough forgotten. She felt a weight pressing down on her. We have to get ready for the gathering. I want you all to be a part of it, to share what's in your hearts. Her older grandson eyed her with curiosity. What if people don't like what we say, Grandma? Mary took a deep breath, her heart pounding. Then we say it anyway. We have to stand tall. We must show them who we are, with love. The children nodded, and for a moment, it felt like they were all on the same page. But she sensed the tremors of uncertainty beneath their brave fronts. What kind of conversations would happen when the community gathered? As they began to prepare their messages, the weight of what was coming settled heavily. Would they be ready for the reactions, for the opinions, for the backlash? Would the power of love truly change hearts? That night, Mary lay awake, wrestling with doubt. The future felt uncertain, but alongside that uncertainty, a fire burned within her of fierce hope that urged her to fight for her family. What would happen when the world turned its gaze towards them? Would they emerge unscathed, or would the struggle become too much to bear? Mary woke with the sun creeping in through the curtains, illuminating the quiet room. The memories of the last night's conversation with Linda were still fresh, the weight hanging above her like a storm cloud ready to burst. She took a moment, closing her eyes, trying to gather the strength needed for the day ahead. The laughter of her grandchildren broke through her thoughts, their carefree voices a soothing balm against her anxiety. They were in the living room, building a fort with old blankets. Mary could hear their joyful shouts and knew that in a world so loud with judgment, their innocence was a precious gift. Let us have a picnic in our fort. Her youngest yelled, and Mary couldn't help but smile at the idea. It was a simple moment but felt monumental. Okay. I'll grab some cookies and juice, she called back. As Mary made her way to the kitchen, she pondered the gathering planned for the weekend. This was supposed to be their moment, a chance for their message to shine, for love to make a mark. But the reassurance Linda had instilled in her now felt like a heavy burden. What if she was right? What if all this ended in chaos? She shook her head as if to banish the darker thoughts. No, she had decided, they would go forward. They had to. The kids busy at play brought a renewed spark to her heart. She mixed juice into cups and piled cookies onto plates, the small actions grounding her in the moment. She could almost see their future, how bright it would be if they grew up in a world where acceptance was the norm and not just a dream. Once everything was ready, she joined them in the living room. The makeshift fort was even grander than she imagined, colorful and chaotic, decorated with cushions and stuffed animals. Wow, this is amazing! Mary exclaimed, her heart fluttering with pride. Grandma, come inside. Her grandson called excitedly. With a grin, Mary crawled into the fort, the kids erupting with laughter as they welcomed her into their cozy world. They sat in a tight circle, sharing stories and munching on cookies, oblivious to any external worries or pressures. But as moments passed, Mary felt a familiar tightness in her chest. It was the same feeling she had when facing Linda. Would they be able to keep their spirits up against the challenges ahead? She thought of the world beyond the fort, the neighbors who watched keenly, the posts online that warned of darkness. Suddenly, a loud knock on the door jolted her from her thoughts. Her heart raced. Could it be another concerned neighbor, or perhaps someone opposing what they were trying to do? She leaned closer to her grandkids, the weight of worry creeping back in. Stay here, just a minute, she whispered, her voice barely more than a breath. As she approached the door, she hesitated. What if it was someone who would bring her fears to life? With a deep breath, she opened the door to reveal Mrs. Thompson, a warm smile breaking across her face. Mary. I came to help with the gathering preparations, she said brightly, stepping into the house. Mary felt a rush of relief wash over her. Mrs. Thompson's energy was infectious, and it felt like a lifeline amidst the uncertainty. But just as quickly, she cast a glance toward the anxious faces peeking out from the fort. "Let us get started then," Mary replied, a spark of renewed hope igniting in her. As they moved to the kitchen, Mrs. Thompson's cheerful chatter filled the air, creating a light atmosphere. Yet, even as they laughed together while preparing, Mary couldn't shake the sense that something was lurking in the shadows. Would Mrs. Thompson's support be enough to counter the fears gripping the community? Or were they still headed towards a rocky path filled with obstacles? For the first time, doubt mingled with the hope she had nurtured for so long. Mary needed to be strong, for herself and for her family. But as the day unfolded, something told her the real storm was still brewing. What would she find waiting for them as the gatherings approached? Would love be powerful enough to overcome the struggle ahead? As the kitchen buzzed with activity, Mary couldn't shake the unease that lingered in the air. Mrs. Thompson hummed a tune, stirring the pot of pasta on the stove, but Mary's focus kept drifting toward the window. Outside, the sky was a perfect blue, yet the weight in her heart built like clouds thickening with rain. "Is everything okay, Mary?" Mrs. Thompson asked, her brow furrowing as she glanced at Mary. "You seem lost in thought." Mary forced a smile, shrugging slightly. "Just thinking about the gathering. I want everything to go smoothly." "Of course it will. You have me, and the whole community behind you." Mrs. Thompson delivered the words with such certainty that for a moment, Mary felt the weight lift a tad, but her reassurance was short-lived as the doorbell rang again, more insistent this time. Mary's heart raced. "I'll get it," she managed, her voice steady despite the turmoil roiling within. She stepped to the door and opened it cautiously, revealing a man she hadn't seen before. He wore a crisp suit and had a professional demeanor, the opposite of the warmth she had felt with Mrs. Thompson. "Good afternoon. I'm Mr. Hawkins from the Neighborhood Association," he said, his expression devoid of any friendliness. "I need to discuss the event you're hosting this weekend." Mary's stomach sank. "Is there a problem?" He took a step inside without waiting for an invitation, scanning the room with hawk-like eyes. "There are a lot of people in this community with strong opinions, Mary. You know that, right?" Gathering her courage, Mary straightened her back. "We know what we're doing. This is about bringing people together." "Is it?" "Word travels fast, and I've heard some concerning things. This gathering, it has the potential to cause a stir." His tone was clipped, like a blade cutting through a soft fabric. Mary's pulse quickened. "We're promoting love and acceptance. How is that a bad thing?" Mr. Hawkins' lip curled slightly, his eyes narrowing. "The last thing this community needs is division. Have you considered what might happen if people disagree?" His words felt like stones dropping in her heart, a slow realization that fear may indeed envelop their intentions. Just then, her grandson peeked around the corner of the fort, curiosity etched on his face. "Who's that, Grandma?" Mary felt a rush of protectiveness. "It's just a visitor. Why don't you and your sister play inside?" The boy hesitated, sensing the tension, but Mary waved him back gently. She didn't want his innocence tainted by fears she had hoped to keep at bay. Once the kids were out of sight, she turned back to Mr. Hawkins. "We're not going to back down. We're committed," she asserted, her voice firm. "This gathering is about creating a better future." The man's expression softened for the briefest moment, but it quickly returned to his cold stance. "Just know that there could be consequences, Mary. Some people might not welcome change." With that ominous warning, he walked away, leaving a ripple of unease in his wake. Taking a deep breath, Mary returned to the kitchen, her heart heavy. Mrs. Thompson noticed immediately. "What was that all about?" "Just another reminder that not everyone agrees with our message," Mary replied, forcing a smile, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. Mrs. Thompson gave her shoulder a reassuring squeeze. "Don't let him rattle you. We're doing something important." "I know, but what if he's right?" The fear seeped out, unsettling as it sat between them. Their laughter and chatter slowly resumed, but Mary couldn't shake the feeling that the storm was closing in. Would they be ready for whatever came next? As dinner approached, she glanced toward the fort, a sanctuary amid uncertainty. But the question nagged, could they really stand together when the winds of change blew so cold? The gathering was just a few days away, but the real battle was beginning. Could love weather this storm? Or were they standing at the edge of a far more dangerous reality than she anticipated? The days passed with a feeling of dread that clung to Mary like the humidity before a storm. Each time the doorbell rang or the phone chimed, she felt her heart leap to her throat, bracing for another confrontation. The community gathering was just around the corner, but with every new day, the excitement that should have filled her heart was drowned by anxiety. On the eve of the event, the kitchen was transformed into a whirlwind of colors and scents. Mrs. Thompson had outdone herself. Tables were draped with vibrant cloths, homemade centerpieces crafted from garden blooms adorned each space, and the aroma of freshly baked goods wafted through the house. Mary put on a brave face, chatting with Mrs. Thompson, but her mind raced. "Mary, stop worrying." Mrs. Thompson chided playfully, her hands on her hips as flour dusted her apron. "This is going to be wonderful. Just think about all the good that will come from it." But what if Mary hesitated, feeling the fears poke their heads through her otherwise cheerful thoughts? What if people argue? What if we're not ready? Ready for what? A familiar voice chimed in, and Mary turned to see her grandson, Tommy, emerging from the living room. "You said we're promoting love. Love's not scary." Tommy's innocence struck her right in the heart. "You're right, sweetie. I just wish everyone felt like you do." "Just breathe," Mrs. Thompson urged, taking Mary's hands in her own. "Picture everyone coming together, sharing stories, laughing. That's what it's about." The words wrapped around Mary like a comforting blanket, and she nodded, still feeling the electricity in the air. But as the sun dipped below the horizon, shadows crept across her thoughts. Later that night, as the kids settled into their rooms, Mary and Mrs. Thompson sat on the porch. The night sky was velvet, punctured by stars, the world silent but for the occasional rustle of leaves. Mary breathed in the fresh air, but it wasn't enough to clear the weight pressing on her chest. "Do you think people will really come?" she asked quietly, unsure if she wanted Mrs. Thompson's answer. "Not just come, they'll unite," she replied firmly, but Mary could still see that spark of concern in her eyes. Mary couldn't shake the uneasy feeling. When her phone buzzed, she grabbed it, half expecting a message from Mr. Hawkins or some other sign of dissent. Instead, the message was from an old friend, someone she hadn't spoken to in ages. "Excited to see you. I wouldn't miss your gathering for the world." A cautious smile spread across Mary's face. She remembered how much Lisa had fought for community togetherness years ago. Despite the distance, their shared vision had propelled her own journey. Maybe that support would yield strength, just as hope flickered in her heart. A loud knock shattered the stillness of the night. Mary exchanged a worried glance with Mrs. Thompson. "What now?" "I'll get it," Mary said, rising from her chair. She felt the familiar knot of anticipation tighten in her stomach as she approached the door. When she opened it, she found herself face to face with a group of concerned neighbors, their expressions grave. "Mary, we need to talk," one of them began, stepping inside without invitation. A chill washed over Mary. Were they there to support her or to warn her? As they gathered around the kitchen table, the warmth of the evening suddenly felt miles away. About the gathering another neighbor started, but Mary could already see the storm brewing in their eyes. What had she gotten herself into? The battle lines were being drawn, and this time, love seemed to stand less chance against the rising tide of fear. "Are you ready for the truth?" one of them finally asked. Mary felt a tremor course through her. She had been fighting for love, but could she withstand the anger brewing in her own backyard? As the words hung heavy in the air, the dawning realization struck her: the battle had only just begun. The room fell into an uneasy silence. Mary's heart pounded as she looked into the eyes of her neighbors, each face a canvas of distrust and disapproval. Their whispers echoed in her mind, swirling thoughts of all the chaos that had led to this moment. "What truth? What are you talking about?" Mary's voice was shaky, barely above a whisper. But as she stood there, 2 feet planted firmly on the ground, something stirred within her. She wasn't ready to back down. One of the neighbors stepped forward. It was Mrs. Caldwell, whose tight-lipped frown had become a familiar sight. "Mary, we all admire your passion, but there are things we need to address. The last thing our community needs is division." Division echoed in Mary's mind, sending a wave of anxiety crashing over her. She glanced at Mrs. Thompson, whose face now mirrored her worry. If just one neighbor was feeling this way, what did that mean for the gathering they had planned? "I'm trying to bring us together," Mary pleaded, her voice breaking slightly. "I believe we can spread love through our differences. We can choose forgiveness over fear." But the more fervently she spoke, the more they seemed to retreat into themselves. The air thickened with the unsaid, shadows stretching across the kitchen floor, almost tangible in their presence. "We've had enough of your optimistic dreams, Mary," someone exclaimed from the back of the group. "What about the hardships we face? You don't live in the reality we do. Those ideals won't solve anything." Mary felt as though she had just been slapped. A wave of shame washed over her, stirring feelings she had tried to keep buried. "You think I don't understand?" She took a breath. "I've lost things too. But I refuse to let fear dictate how we connect with one another." There was a moment of stillness, a softening in their expressions as they pondered her words. For all the fire and fury, the voice of compassion had stirred something deep within. But Mrs. Caldwell was not swayed. "You're asking us to ignore the truth, Mary. We need to face it and confront it head-on. Have you thought about those who might oppose you at the gathering?" The question hung in the air like a storm cloud. Mary swallowed hard, a lump forming in her throat. Of course, she had thought about it. The risks felt heavier now, and the anxiety that had been simmering within her jerked to life once again. "I can't pretend everything is fine. There are different sides to this community. They care about preserving what they know. But that doesn't mean we can't bridge those gaps. We have to start somewhere." Mary insisted, desperation creeping into her tone. "What if we could work together? What if the gathering could be a new beginning?" "You speak of bridges," Mrs. Caldwell said, crossing her arms. "But we have people who are so entrenched in their views, they may tear any bridge you build down. Are you ready for the backlash that could come?" Mary's heart raced as the piece of the puzzle clicked into place. She finally understood this wasn't just about a gathering. It was about everything. Hearts, hopes, and fears laid bare. "I may not be ready for the backlash," she said slowly, each word heavy with weight. "But I'm ready to stand for what's right. And I hope those who join me will also feel that way." Every eye in the room bore into her, their intensity unmistakable. In that moment, Mary realized that this was no longer about her. It was a call to fight collectively for something greater than what had kept them apart. As she watched her neighbors grapple with their emotions, an ember of hope ignited within her. Maybe they could prove that love was stronger than fear. But would they choose each other over division? Just as Mary prepared to speak again, a loud crash interrupted, shattering the fragile tension in the air. What was that sound? The peace they had been hoping to create was already feeling far out of reach. Was it too late to change the course of this gathering? The air thickened with uncertainty as Mary surveyed the kitchen, torn between hope and fear. Just as she was ready to gather her thoughts and continue the conversation, a furious knocking on the door echoed throughout the house. It jolted everyone back to the present, a chorus of gasps filled the room. Mary braced herself, emotions swirling in her chest. She approached the door slowly, unsure of what or who awaited her on the other side. When she opened it, a wave of whispers surged in, led by Pamela. The newcomer stood with her arms crossed, a storm brewing in her eyes. "I heard about your little meeting, Mary. And it's going to ruin everything." The crowd in the kitchen shifted nervously, exchanging confused glances. Mary felt their skepticism wash over her again, thick like syrup. "Pamela, please. We're trying to come together, to promote understanding," Mary responded, her voice trembling with determination. "Understanding?" Pamela scoffed, her voice dripping with contempt. "What about the people who don't want to understand? They don't care about your dreams of community love. Her words pierced the air, drawing out the tension like a thread being tugged knotted tighter. We can't address our issues if we don't talk, Mary insisted, channeling every ounce of hope she could muster. We're here to share experiences, to learn from one another. This isn't just about me or you, it's about all of us. For a moment, silence enveloped the room, and Mary felt the weight of Pamela's gaze scrutinizing her. Would compassion win? Or was the division too deep? Almost instinctively, one of her grandchildren piped up from the hallway, tiny yet brave. But love is stronger than hate. All eyes shifted toward the innocent voice. Little Annie stood there, her curls bouncing as she leaned against the wall, looking hopeful. A hush fell, as if the world had paused just for her. Pamela hesitated, her hardened facade cracking for just a moment against the brightness of Annie's spirit. What do you know about love, kid? It's what we have when we hug and play, Annie replied, her voice ringing with the truth of childhood. When Grandma says we'll get through hard stuff together. That small statement hung in the air, creating a ripple effect. Mary felt a spark of unity shattering through the walls of mistrust. It reminded her of the laughter they shared, the memories they built amid hardships. Can't you see? Mary pressed. Even amidst our struggles, love is what binds us. If we open the doors and talk, we can heal. Mrs. Thompson stepped forward, her hand resting gently on Mary's shoulder. Love has always been our strongest weapon. And we owe it to our children to fight for a brighter future. As murmurs of agreement flowed through the crowd, Pamela shifted uncomfortably, her eyes darting as if searching for an escape. Yet deep inside, Mary could sense something changing within her. Everyone had a story, a struggle, something they carried in silence. Remember our families, Pamela, Mary continued, drawing on her own past. We are each other's support, not a threat. Finally, Pamela looked up, and for the first time, her expression softened. It's been so hard to trust. Mary nodded knowingly. I understand. Trust takes time, but we'll face it together. If we could just take a little leap, that could change everything. With a hesitant breath, Pamela stepped closer. I'm scared too, Mary. But maybe we can start this journey together. In that moment, the kitchen filled with a wave of tentative agreement. Mary felt her heart swell with hope as she looked around the room, witnessing the exchange of glances guarded but softening. They were standing at the precipice of change, a collective breath poised on the edge of fear and unity. As the night wore on, they began to talk not just about fears, but about their lives, their struggles, and their dreams cautiously shared under the glow of flickering kitchen lights. Laughter mixed with tears as they brought down the walls built from years of misunderstanding. The storm clouds began to clear, revealing something bright, a flickering community spirit that longed to forge ahead. They shared stories of laughter, loss, and resilience, pages from their lives flipping forward together. And as Mary looked at her grandson, held tight in her arms, she felt a surge of determination. They would continue this fight. They would forge a new path together. The gathering loomed ahead, a beacon of newfound hope. No matter what lay ahead, they chose love over fear. That was more than enough. With a newfound sense of purpose, Mary knew they were all ready to face whatever storm brewed. Love would guide them, one heart at a time. And with that warmth surrounding her, she understood, the battle had just begun, but they would face it together. Side by side. This is your moment. Don't let anything hold you back. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help us reach more hearts. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending. We want to know what this journey means to you. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Show them the power of love and community. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share.